fell from the sky, a special chi energy surrounded him. That's how he could land safely. But that same energy made him lose his memories.
All right, I gotta leave, okay?
John, we just started. Come on, man.
Listen, there's a lot to see in this life. Not wasting it here.
We haven't even made it to the title sequence for this episode, and we're already back to the chi thing. God damn it. In my review of the first episode of Stitch and I mentioned that if Stitch had simply fallen to the earth normally, suffering a head injury on the way down while still being largely unscathed due to his well-established resistance to blunt force impact, that would have been a fine explanation for his weird amnesia. Instead, the show pulled more chi out of its ass to explain away things that have absolutely fuck all to do with what chi actually is in Chinese mythology. So anyway, after that cold open, episode 6, The Lock, starts in earnest with Ai attempting to teach Stitch to use climbing gear. Odd, considering she's seen him climb without gear before thanks to his natural abilities. The activity is interrupted by a tiny dragon flying and bouncing around.
What is that?
Small creature I make for beta tests. My next creation will be extra large and have chi power, which propelled ancient creatures to fly without wings.
Excuse me? Jumba already made 2 large dragons that fly using chi power, and this little guy was nowhere to be seen at that time, yet supposedly he's the precursor to the big ones. Either he was indeed made first, but just not seen by anyone other than Jumba prior to this time, or this episode chronologically takes place before Spirals, but somehow the order of the episodes got swapped around, resulting in an accidental paradox. I genuinely don't know, so if anyone has confirmed information regarding this anachronism, please share it. Anyway, after narrowly escaping a scolding from JJ for climbing in the living room, Ai decides to take Stitch into the mountains to practice.
We can't forget this.
For your bicycle?
No! It's a Tone Sheen lock for the lock ceremony. If we lock our friendship at the top of the mountain, then we'll be friends forever.
As you can probably figure out from this episode's title, that lock will be the main plot point. Once the friends have left for their hike, Jumba finds the next mythical creature he wants to replicate.
The legendary Xiezhi, one-horned creature of justice that eats fire. I wonder what else it can do.
Meanwhile, the Woolagongs, in their quest to hunt down Stitch, have employed bounty hunters who I deadass thought were Djiboutis at first. How many different sapient species does this universe have? Back in the mountains, Stitch is not happy about using tools to do what he can already do with his paws. Fed up with the gear, he severs the rope and climbs the cliff face in the way he prefers. He and I eventually make it to their destination, where I explains the practice of placing a lock on the chain railing to symbolize an everlasting friendship. Ironically, the friends start bickering over where to put the lock and accidentally drop it over the cliff while fighting over it. Adding insult to injury, the bounty hunters hired by the Woolagongs have arrived, and so have a raiding party of Djiboutis. Stitch manages to get away from both groups and return to Ai, but now they must hide in a crevice in the mountain to avoid being seen and attacked again. They get the idea to call Pleakley and Jumba for help, but quickly get into yet another petty squabble and end up breaking their communicator. Fortunately, a signal is still sent to Pleakley, who traces the location and resolves to go save the duo by himself, as Jumba is busy working on a Xiezhi experiment. Unfortunately, his rescue attempt makes a lot of noise, alerting the bounty hunters. Pleakley calls Jumba for backup, and the scientist gets the idea to teleport his Xiezhi into the mountains upon activation. The experiment arrives on target and poses on the clouds long enough for Ai to infodump. It's a Xiezhi. Everybody knows that. Xiezhis are creatures of justice. They point their horn to decide who's right, and they always protect the innocent.
The bounty hunters open fire, but conveniently, Xiezhis can consume fire, and even more conveniently, this one can apparently spit it back out to blow things up. It can also run on clouds, because... chi, according to Pleakley. Yeah. It absolutely decimates the enemy ships, resulting in this fantastic dialogue.
Watch it! I think it's coming after us next! Hold your position!
With all respect, sir, no freaking way!
Best part of the episode, 10 out of 10. The Xiezhi loses sight of its quarry as they dive into the clouds, which he can't break through since they are like a solid object to him. So Stitch hops into Pleakley's hovercraft to help track them down. Together they kick ass, but immediately afterward, Stitch flies off without a word to anyone. Ai believes he's gone away due to being upset about their arguments earlier. She and Pleakley return to where the heart lock was supposed to be placed.
The area is now completely untouched, even though it was partially destroyed earlier, an oversight that might just be one of those it wasn't in the budget to make new background things. It turns out that Stitch had only left to find Lost Lock, and so he reconciles with his friend. They finally agree on a place to put their lock, and now understand that balance and compromise are necessary to have a good relationship. Overall, this was a nice episode, aside from the typical overuse of stupidly convenient chi, of course. The story and moral were decent, and nothing too absurd happened, except for the chi bullshit. It was simple in a good way, except for the chi bullshit. The worst thing was the cold open, because of the chi bullshit, but since that was more of a recap than anything else, it wasn't technically part of the episode, at least in my opinion. Remember, folks, don't harass anyone for liking this show, and as always, take my salt with a grain of salt.